50.7, 6.5, 50.3, 10.2, 58.0, 14.4, 67.8, 19.9, 70.3, 21.3, 71.0, 21.7, 70.8, 21.6, 61.3, 16.3, 53.1, 11.7, 44.5, 6.9, 35.8, 2.1, record low degree F, degree C, 24, 4, 29, 2, 31, 1, 37, 3, 49, 9, 50, 10, 66, 19, 66, 19, 64, 18, 49, 9, 31, 1, 27, 3, 24, 4, average precipitation inches, millimeter, 1.70, 43, 1.82, 46, 1.93, 49, 2.85, 72, 5.84, 148, 9.00, 229, 6.82, 173, 8.57, 218, 9.01, 229, 5.55, 141, 2.39, 61, 1.88, 48, 57.36, 1457, average precipitation days, greater than or equal to 0.01 in, 6.66.56.310.917.217.219.218.312.67.86.6135.9 source, NOAA, 17, 18. Hydrography. While they are common in the northern portion of Florida, no underground springs feed water into the Everglades system. An underground reservoir called the Floridan Aquifer lies about 1,000 feet, 300 m, below the surface of South Florida. 19. The Everglades has an immense capacity for water storage, owing to the permeable limestone beneath the enclosed land. Most of the water arrives in the form of rainfall, and a significant amount is stored in the limestone. Water evaporating from the Everglades becomes rain over metropolitan areas, providing the fresh water supply for the region. Water also flows into the park after falling as rain to the north onto the watersheds of the Kissimmee River and of the sources of Lake Okeechobee, to appear in the Everglades days later. Water overflows Lake Okeechobee into a river 40 to 70 miles, 64 to 113 kilometers, wide, which moves almost imperceptibly. 20. Ecosystems. At the turn of the 20th century, common concepts of what should be protected in national parks invariably included formidable geologic features like mountains, geysers, or canyons. As Florida's population began to grow significantly and urban areas near the Everglades were developed, proponents of the park's establishment faced difficulty in persuading the federal government and the people of Florida that the subtle and constantly shifting ecosystems in the Everglades were just as worthy of protection. 21. When the park was established in 1947, it became the first area in the U.S. to protect flora and fauna native to a region as opposed to geologic scenery. 22. The National Park Service recognizes 9 distinct interdependent ecosystems within the park that constantly shift in size owing to the amount of water present and other environmental factors. Freshwater sloughs and marl prairies. Alligators thrive in freshwater sloughs and marl prairies. Freshwater sloughs are perhaps the most common ecosystem associated with Everglades National Park. These drainage channels are characterized by low-lying areas covered in fresh water, flowing at an almost imperceptible 100 feet, 30 m, per day. 23. Shark River Slough and Taylor Slough are significant features of the park. Sawgrass growing to a height of 6 feet, 1.8 m, or more, and broad-leafed marsh plants are so prominent in this region that they gave it Everglades its nickname River of Grass, cemented in the public's imagination in the title for Marjorie Stoneman Douglas's book, 1947, which culminated years of her advocacy for considering the Everglades ecosystem as more than a swamp. Excellent feeding locations for birds. Sloughs in the Everglades attract a great variety of waders such as herons, egrets, roseate spoonbills, Platyli ajaja, ibises and brown pelicans, Pelecanus occidentalis, as well as limpkins, Aramus garauna, and snail kites that eat apple snails, which in turn feed on thistle grass. The slough's availability of fish, amphibians, and young birds attract a variety of freshwater turtles, alligator, Alligator mississippiensis, water moccasin, Achistrodon piscivorus conanti, and eastern diamondback rattlesnake, Critolus adamantus. 24. A great blue heron along the Anhinga Trail. Freshwater marl prairies are similar to sloughs but lack the slow movement of surface water. Instead, water seeps through a calcitic mud called marl. Algae and other microscopic organisms form periphyton, which attaches talamestone. When it dries it turns into a grey mud. 25. Sawgrass and other water plants grow shorter in freshwater marl than they do in peat, the other type of soil in the Everglades which is found where water remains present longer throughout the year. Marl prairies are usually underwater from 3 to 7 months of the year, whereas sloughs may remain submerged for longer 13 months and sometimes remain underwater from 1 year to the next. Sawgrass may dominate sloughs, creating a monoculture. Other grasses, such as mully grass, Mullinbergia cericea, and broad-leafed water plants can be found in marl prairies. 26. Animals living in the freshwater sloughs also inhabit marl prairies. Marl prairies may go dry in some parts of the year. Alligators play a vital role in maintaining life in remote parts of the Everglades by burrowing in the mud during the dry season, creating pools of water where fish and amphibians survive from 1 year to the next. Alligator holes also attract other animals who congregate to feed on smaller prey. When the region floods again during the wet season, the fish and amphibians which were sustained in alligator holes then repopulate freshwater marl prairies. 27. Tropical hardwood hammocks. Hammocks are often the only dry land within the park. They rise several inches above the grass-covered river and are dominated by diverse plant life consisting of subtropical and tropical trees, such as large southern live oaks, Quercus virginiana. Trees often form canopies under which animals thrive amongst scrub bushes of wild coffee, Psychotria, white indigoberry, Rundeer aculeata, poisonwood, Metopium toxiferum, and saw palmetto, Serino repens. The park features thousands of these tree islands amid sloughs which often form the shape of a teardrop when seen from above. See park map. Because of the slowly moving water around them, but they can also be found in pineland and mangroves. Trees in the Everglades, including wild tamarind, Lysilomar laticiliquum, and gumbo limbo, Berser acinraba, rarely grow higher than 50 feet, 15 m, because of wind, fire, and climate. 28, 29. The plant growth around the hammock base is nearly impenetrable. Beneath the canopy, hammocks is an ideal habitat for animals. Reptiles, such as various species of snake and anole, and amphibians, such as the American green tree frog, Hyla cinerea, live in the hardwood hammocks. Birds such as barred owls, Strix varia, woodpeckers, northern cardinals, Cardinalis cardinalis, and southern bald eagles, Haliaeetus leucocephalus, nest in hammock trees. Mammal species living in hardwood hammocks include Florida black bears, Ursus americanus. About 160 Florida panthers inhabit hammocks and pinelands of the Everglades. Floridanus, red foxes, vulpes, minks, neogale bison, marsh rabbits, Silverlagus palustris, grey foxes, Eurasian Cinerea argentus, white-tailed deer, Odocoilus virginianus, and the rare, critically endangered Florida panther, puma concolor cobra. 28. Pineland. Sunrise on the Pine Rocklands on Long Pine Key Nature Trail. Miami-Dade County was once covered in 186,000 acres, 290.6 square mi, 752.7 km 2, of pine rockland forests, but most of it was harvested by the lumber industry. 30. Pineland ecosystems, or pine rocklands, are characterized by shallow, dry sandy low-mover limestone substrate covered almost exclusively by slash pines, Pinacellea vardensa. Trees in this ecosystem grow in solution holes, where off limestone has worn away and filled with soil, allowing plants to take hold. 31. Pinelands require regular maintenance by fire to ensure their existence. South Florida slash pines are uniquely adapted to promote fire by dropping a large amount of dried pine needles and shedding dry bark. Pine cones require heat from fires to open, allowing seeds to disperse and take hold. The trunks and roots of slash pines are resistant to fire. Prescribed burns in these areas take place every 3 to 7 years. Without regular fires, hardwood trees begin to grow in this region, and pinelands become recategorized as mixed swamp forests. 32. Most plants in theory bloom about 16 weeks after a fire. 33. Nearly all pinelands have an understory of palm shrubs and a diverse ground covering of wild herbs. 32. Pine rocklands are considered one of the most threatened habitats in Florida. Less than 4,000 acres, 6.3 square mi, 16.2 km 2, of pineland exist outside the park. 34. Within the park, 20,000 acres, 31.3 square mi, 80.9 square kilometers, of pineland are protected. 35. A variety of animal species meet their needs for food, shelter, nesting, and rooking in pine rocklands. Woodpeckers, eastern meadowlarks, Sternella magna, loggerhead shrikes, Lanius ludovicinus, grackles, and northern mockingbirds, Mimus polyglottos, are commonly found in pinelands. Black bears and Florida panthers also live in this habitat. 32. Cypress and mangrove. Alligator in a cypress dome. Cypress trees are conifers that are adapted to live in standing fresh water. They grow in compact structures called cypress domes and in long strands over limestone. Water levels may fluctuate dramatically around cypress domes and strands, so cypresses develop knees that protrude from the water at high levels to provide oxygen for the root systems. Dwarf cypress trees grow in drier areas with poorer soil. Epiphytes, such as bromeliads, Spanish moss, Tillandsia usneads, orchids and ferns grow on the branches and trunks of cypress trees. Everglades National Park features 25 species of orchids. 36. Tall cypress trees provide excellent nesting areas for birds including wild turkey, Meligris galapavo, ibis, herons, egrets, anhingas, anhinga, and belted kingfisher, Megaceril alcyon. Mammals in cypress regions include white-tailed deer, squirrels, raccoons, opossums, skunks, swamp rabbits, river otters, Lontra canadensis, and bobcats, as well as small rodents. 37. 38. Mangrove trees cover the coastlines of South Florida, sometimes growing inland depending on the amount of salt water present within the Everglades ecosystems. During dry years when less fresh water flows to the coast, mangroves will appear among freshwater plants. When rain is abundant, sawgrass and other freshwater plants may be found closer to the coast. 3 species of mangrove trees: red, Rhizophora mangle, black, Avicennia germinans, and white, Naguncularia racemosa, can be found in the Everglades. With a high tolerance of saltwater winds, extreme tides, high temperatures, and muddy soils, mangrove trees are uniquely adapted to extreme conditions. They act as nurseries for many marine and bird species. They are also Florida's first defense against the destructive forces of hurricanes, absorbing floodwaters and preventing